Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Chartreuse Leprechaun. My name is Mark, your host, and it's time for an episode of, well, it's called We Refugees Ticket to Europe. Now, this is a game released on May 1st, 2023, and it deals with a very sensitive subject, refugees traveling from Africa to Europe. It is a politically, emotionally, and even in some ways spiritually sensitive and charged subject, regardless of your viewpoint on it. But I'm not here to talk about any of that. We are here to check out the game, not each other's politics, okay? Also, if after watching this anybody is interested, I have 2 game keys to give away. First 2 requests in the comments are the winners. Now, fair warning, this is not our normal style of game. This is a text-based game. You're reading the story you are experiencing, and there are choices you make along the way to decide what happens next. All right, so as I started to say a minute ago, we're going to treat this kind of like our old Random Game Saturday series. We'll dive in for 30 minutes or so, look this over, discuss various aspects of the game. However, unlike the Random Game Saturday series or our regular game series, this will not be blind gameplay. The devs requested content creators play the game and review it, so being curious, I said yes. And I'll be honest, I had no idea what to expect. Since then, I put several hours into this game, and it's actually triggered some brain issues because of all the reading. This game was a serious challenge for me to play, and so it's taken me quite a while to get this video out. I think they made the request 10 days after the game was released, so that should tell you a lot. Now, they say there's some 30 hours of content in this game, but a complete playthrough can be done in anywhere from 3 to 10 hours. We're not going to spend that long. This is going to be highly edited. We'll hit the highlights and go from there. And we may actually do a couple of episodes. We'll just see how this goes. So with all that stuff in mind, let's check it out. You are a frustrated 30-something wannabe writer from Warsaw who decides to make something out of himself. You will amaze the literary world with your earth-shattering book about refugees, and it will inspire crowds, galvanize hearts, expand minds, and change the world in all the right ways. Before you prepare your Nobel Prize acceptance speech, there's only the trivial matter of actually traveling to Africa to gather notes for your story. You have an ingenious plan to smuggle yourself onto one of the illegal boats that travel to Europe from the shores of Africa while pretending to be a refugee yourself. Surely nothing can go wrong, and you're not completely out of your depth. Surely. Right? Your main objective is, and we get at the bottom of every text page, there's a prompt. This is what you're going to do. Your main objective is to collect notebook entries which will allow you to write a better book, meet people, explore places, gain experience. Be perceptive and inquisitive. Any information can be relevant. Any person can become your protagonist. Write down everything seems significant, interesting, and surprising to you. Become a writer. It's interesting. It says we're a writer, and then it says become a writer. Your flight is in a couple of hours. Prologue. Home, bitter home. The cursor is blinking on the white background of an empty page. Your flight is in a couple of hours. So you get to choose what your next action is. Are we worried about the size of our apartment, the history of boats sinking in the Mediterranean for the refugee waves that have been coming? Worried about our cat, or are we tired? Honestly, I think we're worried about the cat. Tag is empathy. Okay, so you have a notebook up here that we have not put any entries into yet, and you also get tags. Now, these tags identify you as with certain traits. Chosen such an emotional subject for a reason. I'm a naturally empathetic person. So you care about others' feelings. Good to know about yourself. As you go through this game, you'll have the opportunity to do different things, and you'll get, I'm going to make up some numbers here. You get 5 empathies, 2 neutrals, and 1 insanity, making things up. And in the end, that's who you are. So back to the story. Where did the cat go? Suddenly I realized I haven't seen Engels since this morning. I had to try to recall if I gave him breakfast. I pop into the kitchen, find his bowl, it's full. I check the window, scan the bookshelves. You're actually going to go through all of these. Or we can just go to writing. Empathy was removed. We quit caring about Engels, so it took it away. That's the way tags work. So I shrug. It's not the first time Engels wants to play hide and seek, but I'm too busy for it. I want to get into a literary mood before my departure, and I only have a few hours. I sit down at my desk, open my word processor, the cursor blinks white on the background. 30 years of life in 38 square meters, which I assume is his flat/apartment in Warsaw. It was 2014 when I first heard about boats sinking in the Mediterranean. Let's go there. Neutrality. What is this one? This one says, basic tool of the trade. As a journalist, I can't be biased. I need to stay impartial. Okay. So now we're writing something. It was 2014 when I first heard about boats sinking in the Mediterranean, long before Polish journalists took note of the subject. At that time, news on refugees barely got through the mainstream media. The competition was strong. The war in Ukraine, annexation of Crimea, the Ebola epidemic. In this light, few cared about stories of illegal voyages from Africa to Europe. So I can delete all of that, or I can continue writing. Let's keep writing. Meanwhile, against the trend, I've become attached to the subject of refugees like a suction cup to a shower door. I hoped to milk it for deprecidal juices and free myself from the arduous weightlessness of my existence. 6 years and dozens of books on the migrations crisis later, I'm one flight away from looking into the eyes of the people whose tragedy protects me from taking antidepressants. Really? That does not sound good. I'm indulging myself. This is a good start. So, are we just talking about us, or are we going somewhere with this? If I say I'm indulging myself, it wipes it out. If this is a good start, it keeps it. Moments pause, I skim the text, read it once, twice, 10 times, savor the sentences. Perhaps it's not reportage in its purest form, neutral and objective, but it feels mine, personal. Calmness washes over me. I'm interrupted by the cat. This is why it takes a while to play this game. I feel something rubbing against my foot. The fluffiness of the cat's fur. There's my boy. We'll go there. I give Engels a scratch. First on the back of his neck, then on his head, finally his favorite place, which only his most trusted friends are allowed to touch. The fur on his face. Yeah, that sounds like a cat. Petting a cat resembles a trance or meditation. It rids the mind of unnecessary thoughts. What's left is the pure physical act of direct contact between two living beings. I wait for the purr. I think I'm going to take a nap before my flight. I wait for the purr, but it never comes. I scratch on. Silence. Engels seems unwell. Turns his head away, avoids my touch. At the same time, he doesn't attack with his claws. He's not in the mood for playing either. He walks listlessly toward the radiator, snuggles down at its base as if something's troubling him. Perhaps he thinks I'm going to leave. But what if he's ill? We'll go here. But I decide to take a nap, save my strength before leaving for Egypt. It's hard to fall asleep. The intercom buzzes. It must be Hella. She's here to pick up the cat like we arranged. It's been 2 years since I last saw her. I got over her, built myself from the ground up, but I still hold a grudge. And now we're just a few flights of stairs from another meeting. When I look into her face again after all the suffering, I have some choices. I can show her how great I'm doing without her, I can take out all my frustrations, or treat her normally, like a regular acquaintance. Yeah, you know what? Let's go there. I expected that to get us a character trait, but it didn't. Interesting. That was not a notebook entry, all the stuff we wrote before. That's interesting. Okay. But I can hear footsteps. The doorbell rings. Hella looks older. She is older. But it's not about maturing. She looks unwell, tired, almost unhappy. Hi, I'll grab the cat and go. Mashek's double parked in front of your building. Here we go. As soon as she opens her mouth, she brags about someone waiting for her. She's dealing the cards as usual. Let's put Engels in the crate, I tell her. You haven't done that yet? You can put him in yourself? It'll just take a second. You want to help? Yeah. Ella seems caught off guard, but she agrees. We catch the cat in silence, lock him in the crate. The old routine goes like clockwork. We have it down to every little move. Back then when we did it, we would have a little playful back and forth. Today, gestures, rituals have replaced words, and they awaken memories. We'll get going. Nice seeing you. Uh-huh. She holds out her hand. I shake it. Touching her feels strange. Memories from our nights together, walking trips around outside the city in the spring, flash before my eyes. I remember all the wild retreats we explored on weekends. Take care of yourself, in Africa. Text me when you land, or something. Keep an eye on him, okay? An hour later, I'm off to the airport. And this is the intro. There's actually a whole lot of stuff about the trip and so forth that comes in there, but we are going to skip that and go straight to Act 1. Alexandria. The airport in Alexandria, the lounge is rectangular, spacious, 10 or so meters tall. Its interior bright with natural light entering through the glass walls. Colors are muted, mostly beige, light brown, various shades of gray. Here and there, a palm tree sticks out of a cube-shaped flower pot, an attempt to animate the otherwise bland space. The Mediterranean vibe puts me in vacation mode. This is a new reality. So, the choices you're going to make in the airport are about how you choose to interact or view people. So, let's go with the new reality, because he is, after all, from Warsaw on his first trip to Egypt. I say he is, we are. European tourists who made up the majority of the passengers on the plane now seem like an exotic respite from the ubiquitous sight of men in tunics and women in hijabs. Looking at them, I feel apprehensive. I'm fascinated. We'll go with fascinated. I look at all the Muslims I pass. I have no idea what their stories are. Contrary to what I expected, only some have their faces covered. Still, I feel a great sense of mystery. In Europe, I'd learned to label people quickly. Pink hair, must be a women's rights activist. Work-worn hands, I'm sure he votes conservative. I see, I judge, I forget, I move on. Here, it's impossible. And we're back to a whole lot of pages where you read a little bit of text and you get a prompt saying, okay, check this one thing. Look at this one thing. Do this one thing. There's a lot of this in this game and in this story, and that's why it takes so long to play, and also why it was such a brain challenge for me, I guess is the way I want to say it. So, according to here it's impossible. Each face an enigma, a puzzle I want to solve. Traveling is a bit like childhood. You see more. Your perception is sharpened by a true curiosity of the world. That is true if you let it. It is up to you how you view things when you go somewhere. If you are open-minded and open-hearted, you will see things differently, and you will see, in my opinion, a lot more. Anyway, according to my itinerary, we have a notebook entry now, which says, Egypt, first impressions. Wrote down my first impression as soon as the plane landed. They're not huge notes, but just a couple of tags there. According to my itinerary, I have nothing else planned for today. On the margins of my research notes alongside underlined phone numbers, I only find a short reminder from my publisher, a subtle suggestion to call my fixers and set up some meetings once I've landed. The first one, okay, so these are the contacts in his, I guess his notebook, maybe his planner, possibly his cell phone, wherever we're keeping them. It doesn't actually say. So the first one, Eric, a Belgian volunteer, researcher, clearly did his job, included personal remarks on the standard profile. Used to volunteer in Europe, recently launched his own project in Africa, an idealist, kind of hippie, a man of action. Always busy, rarely picks up his phone during the day, sometimes calls back past 11 p.m., sometimes, rarely. Call him multiple times a day, don't hold back. Age, around 65, but acts younger. Attached an email and Q&A with Eric. That is rather long. Check out the details on if you click that one, it opens up the, you get a chance to read what he said on questions 65, 15, 4, 27. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's a bunch of them. And you have to go through all of them if you click that. Or we can look at the second guy. His name is Isaac. He's a native Egyptian. His profile reads, actually, Ishaq Ahmed Mahmoud Ahmed Mohammed. a so-called fixer, someone who lives off his contacts. People say he can get hold of anyone in Alexandria, or at least he says so. Charges for literally everything. It shouldn't surprise you if he bills you even for picking up. He often disappears for a few days, likely an active member of the criminal underworld. Warning, shady guy, stay vigilant. His personal data is incomplete. The date and place of birth are missing. There's a cartoon of Robin Hood instead of a photo. There's only his phone number and detailed address of his place of residence. Nothing more. So how will I spend my first day in Africa? At the back of my head, I still have my publisher's ominous warning not to mess around. My itinerary includes just 3 days in Egypt, and the budget is not made of rubber, as Jersey likes to say. Time to get to work, or let's wing it. Let's wing it. The age-old teenage wisdom, wing it, which loosely translates to stop caring about your duties, do what you want, and even if you get lost along the way and fail to reach your goal, you'll at least have fun on your devious path. And in the end, you'll be happy. It sounds like no plan is the best possible plan, so impulsively I decide to have a drink, go to the seaside, strike up conversations with passers-by. You know what? Let's go have a drink. I wander the airport for a while, look for a shop or a restaurant with alcohol. It turns out, surprise, surprise, you can't buy an alcoholic drink anywhere in the airport outside the duty-free zone. The shop clerks and waiters advise me to go to Central Alexandria, where I'll be sure to find a liquor shop. There's at least one in every district, they say. What a barbaric country. No, that is their culture. That is their religion, which drives their culture. It shapes their culture. It is part of everything they do. That is not per se barbaric in and of itself. But that's good enough for me. Notebook entry, so he wrote another one. I had known about Egypt's radical anti-alcohol policy before I got there, but it still felt weird. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Go outside the airport to catch a taxi. Hey, have you got a cigarette? I hear a voice behind me. I'd kill for a smoke. I turn around, a woman around 30. I'm looking at a woman holding a huge suitcase. Her short hair is dyed blonde, her nose pierced, her neck adorned with a clothespin hung on a shoelace, hippy-dippy backpacker style. On second thought, if she's traveling with a suitcase, can I call her a backpacker? I haven't got cigarettes. Sorry, I don't have any. You should buy some then. The ride's on me. First drink is too. After that, we'll see. I get in the taxi. You don't refuse when you're thirsty and someone's buying. So begins our search for booze. Okay, are you telling me you bought a one-way ticket? Oh, as the taxi speeds along the highway, I have no idea where we're going. My new backpacker friend, Antonia, whispered the destination to the driver. As we talk about our plans, she stops me mid-sentence with a snicker. Are you telling me you bought a one-way ticket? To stop herself from laughing, Antonia covers her mouth with her hand, slender as a pianist. The gesture is surprisingly casual, but dignified. And you're planning to float back to Europe on a raft. And it doesn't stop there. I shouldn't have let my guard down like that. Yeah. See my beard? I grab onto the wild, unkept fur curving my cheeks. I haven't shaved in a month. These smugglers would never let a foreign journalist on their boat. The beard is my certificate of Syrian authenticity. I do look like a refugee, admit it. She closes one eye, tilts her head to the side, assesses my facial hair situation, more like a hipster. I don't know, maybe they have different standards in Africa. But you know what I do know? I like you. 20 kilometers later, we stop outside a liquor shop. She asks the driver to wait. A moment later, she's back with a bottle of whiskey. It's illegal to drink in public here, and believe me, you don't want to break the law in Egypt. So, what now? I have an idea. We can drink right here. No one's going to ID us in the car. She smiles. Great minds think alike. 3 swigs later, ooh, straight whiskey after a long plane ride, and now a long cab ride that's getting longer. Oh boy. Under the driver's amused eye and even further into who knows where, Antonia's eyes are sparkling with alcoholic excitement. She takes turns listening and speaking, asking and replying. We exchange words, but their meanings don't matter. This is an act of human-to-human understanding. We are Two strangers joined together for a moment and drunk. That's a bad combination, by the way. $30 on the meter later. $30? Oh my God. Yeah, see, the cab's still moving. Hey, we stop at another shop. I buy a bottle of wine. I get a whiskey, wouldn't want to mix drinks. Yeah, no, wine and whiskey. No. God, no. I get a whiskey, wouldn't want to mix the drinks and be dying tomorrow, hungover. Officially, I'm at work here. But Tasia, the pet name she asked me to call her after a few drinks, has another idea. She buys 2 beers and a bottle of wine. She has a vision. I'm starting to suspect she has roots in Eastern Europe. We chase down the Muscat with the Pilsner. I'm flooded with memories of beatnik literature I read as a teenager, adventurers thrown around America by their hitchhiker luck. For a moment, you kind of get the feel for how this works. It wants you to go through all the possible choices. It gives you brief blurbs and has you thinking about what is going on. This is the way this game plays. It is, well, I guess there's no other way to say it. It is just slow and methodical, but it takes you through the choices of your journey, of your what you're trying to do, and gives you options that either push you deeper into it or pull you back from it. For a moment, I forget the world exists. Inspired, I tell Antonia about Ginsberg's poetry, Kerouac's prose, Dylan's music. Fueled by longing for my teenage fantasy, which I never lived out, I start a logomaniacal speech, a structureless stream of consciousness, which probably no one understands but me. And I'm willing to bet at this point, even I don't understand it. Do you think people still live like that today? That's impossible. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. Sometimes I imagine this situation. It's 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'm sitting in my office. Suddenly the sun peers out from behind the clouds. I squint. I get up, close the blinds, and then I notice a bum in the street. Poor victim of his own habit, rambling around the city. All my civilized reflexes tell me to feel sorry for him, but all I feel is envy, because he seems freer than me. Having been homeless, there is, I want to say, a different level and style to the freedom of being on the street. But even with that, it's still highly stressful. It's not a life I would choose to live again, but I know I could. But it's not any freer than what I am right now, or what hopefully you are right now. It's just different. So we take a sip of beer. Then I walk away from the window, leave the office without even closing my laptop. I get in the car, driving nowhere specific, just for the sake of being on the road. Tasia's listening, hypnotized. I've never done it, I confess to her. Even though I run my own company, I'm my own boss, something still stops me. You think too much. Try to turn off your thinking for a moment. Maybe this is why you came to Africa. She stretches out her hand, closes her fist, opens it again, just on impulse for no reason. She looks over her arm from all sides. Then she extends one finger, touches my nose, my ear, my lips. I don't think. I bite. I turn my head away. Finger slides between my teeth. I move my tongue over the fingertip. You can tell where this is going. Can the driver see us? What is he thinking? This is just my mind, rapid fire through questions. My mind does not understand what's going on right now. Oh, yes, I do. I wake up before dawn, feeling like I've forgotten something. Oh, I was supposed to call my publisher as soon as I check into my hotel. Kiss my sleeping lover hurriedly and leave. Still groggy. But as I check in, I find Antonia's business card in my wallet with her number underlined. I smile. Feel a rush of endorphins. It's too early to call my publisher, but it would be a sin to waste all that energy I feel like writing. I reach for my notebook and look through today's entries. Which one should I elaborate on? First impressions, prohibition. I close my notebook, put the pen down. Let's go with first impressions. The airport was no different from what I've seen in Europe. I describe it in detail. I focus on the people. I write a paragraph portraying the people I met. I look for some universal themes which would connect the Muslim and European communities. And then I move on to another entry. No, I think that'll do for today. My first day in Africa has come to an end. And that's the way the game plays. We will likely do another episode. There are some... It gets much more into how things play out as you go through the game. The most important problem with this game is it's a big mental challenge for me. As a stroke survivor, my ability to concentrate and read for longer than 30 minutes or so is compromised. So this game actually caused a few brain crashes, and having played the game several times, I can tell you it's enjoyably different. This is not your normal video game by any stretch of the imagination. It can be monotonous. It can even be boring from time to time, and then it gives you one of those choices that makes you sit up and struggle over what to do. We haven't gotten to those choices yet. And the game, by the way, gives you the chance to play out your own personality, your own flavor of socio-political viewpoint. The game wants you to look at the human side of this, but it gives you the chance to completely ignore it at every turn. So I do give the game a thumbs up, and we'll carry on. We'll get to some more intense things later and how you have to deal with things. But I do give the game a cautious thumbs up, and I mean cautious because it isn't your normal style of game, and it isn't for everyone. Still, as I said at the beginning, if anyone is interested, I have some game keys to give away. The first 2 requests in the comments are the winners. And with that, I'm going to call this an episode. It's a bit of a short one. Again, with all the things off cam that I just clicked through that I had to read through to keep up with what was going on, just 30 minutes or so it's a lot for me. So, but if you enjoyed this craziness, my brain stuff, this type of game, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, set yourself up for notifications. You don't want to miss anything around here. Also, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Gameplay suggestions, tips on any video are always welcome. Please and thank you. But no matter what, always, always, always remember that if you see it and you can't quite explain it, you can be sure the Leprechaun did it. Now you have yourselves a great day, a great week, and we will see you here next time on The Chartreuse Leprechaun. Bye-bye.